AMP presents This Is Your Life.
Hello there. Welcome to This Is Your Life. Tonight we're in the Channel 7 studios in Brisbane to surprise a well-known Australian who was flown in from Mackay, 1,000 kilometres away. And while we're waiting for him, I want you to take a look at this. The Taipan. A bite from this snake meant certain death until 1955. Today the Taipan victim has a chance to live, and that is why tonight we present the life work of our guest of honor. He's not a doctor, a scientist, or an eminent researcher, but an ordinary man with extraordinary courage. As you will see, he's risked his life for others on many occasions and almost lost it on many occasions as well. This lady is his wife, Leah, who, unbeknown to him, flew in from Mackay this morning for this surprise. Right? Yes, he's coming right now with interviewer Mike Higgins, so here we go.
Stay here with me for a while and we'll get things doing.
Just a run through of what you're going to say, Mike.
Yeah, okay. Well, just generally to get things started, I'll probably say, Chandra, to reach your audience, it has taken a lifetime of travel over 500,000 miles, and tonight in the next half hour, more than 1 million viewers on national television will see your story unfold.
Ram, Roger Clemson by name. How do you do? Ram, we've got a big surprise for you.
Yes, indeed.
The program is not called Australia Today. Ram Chandra, this is your life. Ram, you're a folk hero to the people of northern Queensland. They've even written a song about you. And recently there's been a book. And you can see it on ABC's A Big Country as well. But let's begin our story in Mackay at the headquarters of the Queensland Ambulance Transport Brigade on a morning in April 1956. Outside this building, 50 ambulance men gather and watch as you climb into a canvas pit alive with deadly snakes. Tigers, death adders, blacks, browns, and the most lethal of them all, the Taipan. Readiness to move is your safety, but the ground is soft and your foot out of position.
Bloody hell, the Taipan's bitten him.
Retired Queensland Ambulance Superintendent Lou Bossarini. Lou, it was you who finally jumped into the pit. Will you tell us exactly what happened?
It was one of his favourite demonstrations. What he liked to do too, I think, was to milk a very dangerous snake. And for the one that he chose to milk, happened to be a big Taipan. About 7 feet long, I think. Well, as Ted went over to grab behind the head, it suddenly whipped around and sank its fangs into his leg. Well, Ted immediately dropped the snake, picked up his first aid kit, which he always keeps handy in the pit, put a ligature on his leg, and did the necessary first aid treatment. I heard someone in the back saying, "Better get out, Ted, while you can." And Ted replied, "Oh, don't worry, I'm okay, I'll be all right." So he carried on with his work. He got up, next thing he grabbed a big python. After a few seconds, Ted dropped the python and started to sway a bit, and his face changed, suddenly started to change colour, got a real sickly grey on his forehead and it run right down his head, his face. I knew then that he was in serious trouble. I had to look around and see where the Taipans were. And then I just jumped over the pit, over the wall of the pit, and grabbed him by the body and sort of lifted him, half lifted him high, carried him over to the wall where some of the other boys grabbed him by the arms and held him, and then he went round the back and grabbed him by the legs and hoisted him over.
Well, Lou, death was a certainty if one of those Taipans had been you, because in Mackay that day, as you knew very well, there was only enough antivenin to save one life. Little wonder you were awarded a bronze medal for bravery. Thank you, Lou, for being here. Ram ambulance rushes you to Mackay Base Hospital with precious seconds ticking away. Doctors administer every last drop of Taipan antivenin available. Leah is called. She waits outside with a crowd of reporters. Ram, you are the second Australian saved by Taipan antivenin. The first was a 10-year-old boy from Cairns.
If it wasn't for Ram Chandra, I'd be dead.
Yes, Ram, that 10-year-old boy is now a doctor, Dr. Bruce Stringer. Bruce, you say that Ram saved your life.
Yes, he did, Roger. I believe a lot of the groundwork for the development of the Taipan antivenin was due to Ram's work. I was running away from some of my children over a log. Snake bit me on the knee and pumped into me twice. And I managed to hobble back, and the schoolmaster met me halfway back, scarified the wound, got me to underneath the school, and I got a bit dizzy, vomited. Never eaten risol since then, and I passed out. I woke up in the ambulance, and then I think I passed out again. I got to the hospital. I think they must have given me the tiger snake antivenin. Yeah. And then I deteriorated again. And then they realised I was on the way out and had to go with the Taipan antivenin, and here I am today.
You're lucky, all right, because the thing about it is I think the antivenin was only made had been made 3 weeks and was placed in Cairns Hospital. And so if it had been 3 weeks earlier,
I wouldn't be here. Well, it's really a great pleasure to be here to thank you once again. I and all the other Taipan snake victims certainly owe you a great debt of gratitude, Ram.
Well, Dr. Stringer, it's great to see you here, and thank you for being here this afternoon. In 1975, Ram, for your courageous work with the Taipan, you're awarded the British Empire Medal. This honour was certainly not in the mind of the cheeky young sideshow performer of the 1940s. Australians know you today as Ram Chandra, but you're born Edward Royce Ramsamy on May the 24th, 1921, in the small New South Wales town of Lawrence, near Grafton, the youngest of 9 children. Your parents, Albert and Josephine, have a hard life coaxing enough food from their few acres of farmland, so the family moves to Grafton before you start school.
G'day, Ted. Do you remember Davy Street?
You haven't seen him for 40 years, Ram. Your neighbourhood pal, now Deputy Principal of Gilwinga Primary School, Bernie Ellum. Bernie, what was so special about Dobie Street?
Well, Dobie Street was where we lived, and we used to play around together as kids. We had lots and lots of fun. Our parents were both battlers. We knew what it was to go without things, and, well, we used to scavenge around getting bottles, take them down to Zitch's factory and sell them for a halfpenny each.
That's right.
To get thrippence to go to the pictures.
That's true, yeah.
Remember the cow down the back of our yard where we used to play?
Yeah, I can
Grandfather's cow?
Yeah.
Too far to go and get a drink of water, so we'd try to get some milk from the cow.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't milk that cow as well as you milked the Taipan, mate. Not nearly as well.
Bernie, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
It's the Depression, Ram, and jobs are hard to find. One by one, the Ramsamy kids leave home to find work. You get by packing fish, delivering medicine, and working at Wiley's Hotel. And here's a message from a former mayor of Grafton, your hotel boss, Bill Wiley.
Hello, Nathan. It's Bill Wiley here. I wish you well, and my best wishes, my wife and myself, to you and your family.
Well, Ram, in 1940 you joined the army, but are finally discharged because of a weak leg. You moved to Sydney, where you rent a room at Woolloomooloo and do odd jobs at Sydney hotels. Bill Wiley calls you Hector, Lou calls you Ted, and we'll soon see how Edward Royce Ramsamy becomes Ram Chandra Showman. Ram, the bright lights of Sydney's Luna Park fascinate you. It's here you meet a young Indian, Nazir Shah, who invites you to join his magic act. You don a turban for the first time and become a spruiker for the Carnival of Eastern Wonders. Finally, as partners, you and Nazir dispense the mysteries of the Orient to sideshow audiences along the East Coast. Your specialty, the Indian rope trick, is soon overshadowed as you add a kangaroo, a boxing tent, and then a snake pit to your attractions. In Mackay, you call your snake pit the Pit of Death. One day, the crowd push in the canvas walls and a woman falls in with her child. You get her out with a helper, Kevin Mitchell, and here he is right now to shake you by the hand. Kevin, thank you for being with us. Well, Ram, back in Mackay once again in 1944, you hired two pretty young sisters to help sell tickets. Now, Leah, will you tell us exactly what happened?
Well, he hired myself and my sister Narisha to work in a ticket box. And I always in a ticket box, but my sister Narisha, she's always sneak out of ticket box. And I'm the one that got the trouble with Ram.
I couldn't tell the difference between either one of the girls. And she was in the ticket box, and it was the sister that was out. And I growled at her instead of the other one.
Well, never mind. I'm sure you've made up for all that over the years anyway.
I think she's been a good wife. Very good.
Ram, the life of the showman is precarious. Often there's barely enough to eat. In 1945, you leave Leah and your first child behind, split up with Nazir Shah and go it alone, travelling the dusty roads from town to Perth. This is the time you change your name to Ram Chandra to emphasize the Indian element of your show. You acquire snakes for the pit by catching them yourself. But at Ingham in 1946, a farmer gives you a copper-colored snake that moves like lightning. The locals call it the Traveller Brown. Later you learn it is a Taipan. There is no Taipan antivenin, and only one man is known to have survived the Taipan bite. Years later you meet him in Cooktown, and here he is right now to celebrate with you tonight, Pastor George Rosendale. Thank you, Pastor. In 1950, a young snake collector, Keith Budden, is killed near Cairns. You become obsessed with the taipan and the need for an antivenin. You first milk the deadly reptile in 1951 and then formulate your own antivenin.
He certainly had the courage of his convictions.
Ray from Mackay, a friend and helper for many years, Dr. Ian Chenoweth. Will you tell us, Doctor, what happened with Ram's antivenin?
Well, he'd been experimenting for some years and working on it, and then he came along to me with a proposition. He said he'd bring along the taipan, let the taipan bite him, and then let me inject his own remedy into his veins. But fortunately, we talked him out of that. But we thought we'd settle for an experimental animal, so Ram brought along a kangaroo rat. And we got the taipan to bite it, and we injected the remedy, and the rat died. But all was not lost. Soon after that, we had a North Queensland medical conference. We met a doctor from the Commonwealth Serum Lab there, and he said, well, if you can produce the venom, the Commonwealth Serum Lab will produce the antivenin. So Ram went on milking the taipan. We used to take it to the sugar research, dehydrate it, we'd send it down, air freight, urgently to Melbourne, and they started to produce the antivenin.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Yes, Doctor, thank you for your part. Ram, the reward for those years of dangerous work comes in 1954 when the Commonwealth Serum Laboratories announces a Taipan antivenin. In 1955, it saves Bruce Stringer's life. A year later, your life too is saved, but you don't rest there.
Ram, I wish I had $1 for every mile that you've travelled.
Another mate from the Queensland Ambulance, Tom Knight. I gather Ram did quite a bit of travelling around, Tom.
He did, Roger. Probably over more than 500,000 miles. But the idea of his survey was to develop not only antivenin, but find out where the snakes were so that the antivenin could be distributed. Ram also assisted the ambulance during his period of this survey by coming to our centres and radiating out into the areas from there. He even asked the superintendents would they collect the heads of snakes people had killed and send them to him for proof of identification. Congratulations.
And you continue to challenge fate for others, but fate has a bitter blow in store for you. 1965, you pay a terrible price for your work with snakes. You awake with both legs paralyzed. The doctors operate but tell you there's no hope. Ram Chandra, the snake man, is to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. With 11 children to raise and a mortgaged home, you and Leah must find a way to survive. You wash abattoir overalls 24 hours a day. Soon there's a factory contract and you can purchase a laundry. By 1969, you've paid off your home. And then with a superhuman effort, you teach yourself to drive again. The laundry fails. Refusing defeat, you and Leah collect scrap metal and you make a vow that someday, Ram, you will walk again.
Ram, do you remember those 4-gallon drums?
An old friend from the early days of your Taipan survey, Murphy Anderson, and with him his wife, Norma. Murphy, what did 4-gallon drums have to do with Ram walking again?
Well, Roger, I used to get these 4-gallon drums and stick him in with hot water and stick his feet in these drums and leave him there for about an hour and a half, put him out on this rubbing table and rub him for about another 2 hours. Anyway, we had our little walks after that. I was measuring the walks as we were going along. At the end of the 3 weeks, I said to the wife, run me up to the end of the aerodrome. So she ran us up to the end of the aerodrome and I told her on the flight, I said, you go home. Let us out, and of course we had a talk and he's watching the car going back and he said, Norma's gone right home. I said, yeah, I told her to. He said, what about if I can't make it? I said, well, we'll have to camp for the night, mate. On our journey home, we got nearly about 20 feet from the house, and I said, do you think you'll make it, mate? He said, now you bloody asked me.
On your feet again, Ram, you make a comeback in 1972. You lecture in schools, at local shows, and in department stores throughout. What you get from your family. Ram, you have 11 children, 32 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. While you were out of town recently, we went to your home in Slade Point, Mackay, to film them. Anyway, Ram, they all wanted to come tonight, so 9 of them actually made it, and here they are. Ram, the family have elected a spokesman. The one who's worked most with you, beside you the greatest amount of time, your firstborn, Eddie.
I mean, it is a proud moment.
I want you to listen now very closely to this voice.
Hello, Bubby. How are you, son?
Yes, Ram, you haven't seen him for 30 years. This is your life has brought him from Portland in Victoria, your brother Mick Ramsamy with his helper Terry Albert, and your brother John from Grafton. Here they are.
Yes,
31 years.
31 years.
Yeah.
I've
Oh, I've got lots to talk about.
Yes, we have.
I'll see you later on.
Ram, for 20 years you worked without any official help. Granted, you had the support of the Queensland Ambulance and that of the local people, but it took nearly 2 decades for you to win the official recognition that you deserve. But many Australians know of your work and are behind you. Among your supporters is the former Minister for Northern Development, Dr. Rex Patterson, who sends you this message.
You've been greatly honoured tonight for a magnificent job you've done for Australia, and I hope you have a very good time tonight.
Well, Ram, your family are so enthusiastic we can't control them any longer, so here are a few more of them. Come on, family. Ram, with your family around you, will you tell us what has been the proudest moment of your life?
Well, I think the proudest moment of my life, it was the time that they flew me to Cairns to see the boy Bruce Stringer. He recovered, and I looked into his eyes, and this boy said to me, as you see him here tonight, he said, one day I'm going to be a doctor, and as you see, he has become a doctor. That, I think, is the proudest moment of my life, because of all the risks, of all the hardships, of all the things that I had to provide my family and wife in the early days, I thought, well, it was worth it, because I'd saved one life in that boy from doing the things I'd done.
Ram, your story is an inspiration of what one man can do in his lifetime with his heart, his mind, and his hands. Ram Chandra, Edward Royce Ramsamy, BEM. This is your life.
Furnishings by James Penny Interiors. When in Brisbane, our guests stay at the Travelodge Kangaroo Point and the Boulevard Hotel Sydney, bringing people together like this is part of TAA's friendly way service. Snake expert Ram Chandra has lived in Queensland